Hi, everybody. My name is Angus Wright, and I also go by Angus by Design. And in July of 2025, I certified as a CPMC, or a Certified Personal Medicine Coach, taught by and developed by Dr. Pat Deegan and Associates. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be included in such a program. And this is part of my journey to not only continue my learning, but also just to self-educate so that I can become more effective and most effective when it comes to connecting with people and supporting them as a peer. And so I call this Angus by Design, Weaving a Life of Recovery and Advocacy, inspired by Pat Deegan's vision. And what was the catalyst of this was this morning, July 26th, 2025, I just did a personal journey guided education into one of the additional courses that's available for CPMCs or Certified Personal Medicine Coaches through Pat Deegan's program. So if any of this resonates with you, I really encourage you to get in touch with her, get in touch with the website, look up what personal medicine means. And if I resonate with you or you think that I can be helpful in your journey, please don't hesitate to reach out in a meaningful way. So as a little introduction, I call this Designing a Life of Purpose. So from the perspective of myself, Angus Wright, the very name Angus by Design encapsulates a life philosophy, a deliberate, intentional construction of purpose from the raw materials of lived experience. This video and this thought process, much like the work it describes, is an act of design, aiming to illuminate the profound connection between personal struggle and collective action. It stands as a testament to the power of self-determination, a principle that has been embraced and championed, deeply inspired by the pioneering work of Dr. Pat Deegan. Her insights, forged in the crucible of her own recovery journey, have provided the foundational architecture for understanding what recovery truly means and how it can be fostered. So this analysis and this reflection of mine will explore the multifaceted identity of me, Angus Wright, as a professional, skilled architect of peer support programs, a vulnerable artist, and a tenacious activist, and demonstrate how these roles converge into a coherent mission. So through this lens, the video and this conversation, or presentation that I'm having at least, will articulate a profound appreciation for Dr. Deegan's life work and acknowledge the collective efforts of peers and allies who have ensured her vital message continues to resonate today. So the intentional structure and presentation of this report itself reflects the by design philosophy, reinforcing the core message that a meaningful life is actively constructed, not passively received. So the crucible of lived experience and forging purpose from pain. My personal narrative is inextricably linked to my physical body, the site of profound struggle that has been consciously transformed into a public canvas for art and activism. My journey began with a life-altering duodenal switch bariatric surgery in 2008, which saw my weight drop from over 500 pounds, or 230 some odd kilograms, to under 200 pounds or 89 kilograms roughly. So while a physical triumph in terms of weight reduction, this brought unforeseen challenges, chronic malabsorption requiring ongoing micronutrient supplementation, and persistent gastrointestinal issues like GERD or GERD, and hypoglycemia. So this is the embodied journey from my physical struggle to my artistic reclamation. Crucially, the significant weight loss left extensive excess skin. So it's a source of chronic physical pain for me, particularly abdominal and testicular pain, exacerbated by sitting and intense psychological distress, including things like body dysmorphic disorder or symptoms. I've described often feeling very alien in my very own body, struggling to even look in the mirror, a testament to the profound disconnect that can happen between my internal self and my external body or my external form. So this physical manifestation of distress, it highlights that recovery is not solely a mental or psychological process, but it's truly a holistic, integrated journey involving the entire person. The physical consequences of bariatric surgery, such as the excess skin and pain, directly caused or significantly exacerbated some specific mental health conditions that I had, like body dysmorphic disorder and anxiety. In 2019, I undertook a deeply vulnerable and transformative act, collaborating with photographer Ruth Steinberg on a series of naked portraits. This was far more than personal therapy. It was a deliberate act of artistic activism. By publicly displaying a body that defied conventional notions of beauty and successful weight loss, I reclaimed my own narrative, confronting the absolute hatred I once felt towards my body and sometimes do still feel. The exhibition became a powerful, nonverbal form of peer support, implicitly communicating solidarity and hope to countless others struggling with body image and the complex aftermath of medical procedures. It declared that strength and beauty could be found even in perceived imperfections, transforming personal struggle into a public artistic act that demonstrated self-advocacy and the strength found in using my own experience to create a sense of collective healing. So navigating the labyrinth of mental health diagnoses, trauma, and resilience. The mental health journey has been equally complex, a tapestry woven with multiple diagnoses and profound trauma. From generalized anxiety disorder in my teenage years to a diagnosis of body dysmorphic syndrome in 2006, early experiences set a pattern of seeking understanding for me. Later diagnoses like adjustment disorder, major depressive disorder, and a history of post-traumatic stress disorder, not only stemming from my childhood sexual assaults and my experienced workplace bullying. These traumas have manifested as flashbacks, nightmares, and I generally have a pervasive mistrust of others. A significant recent development was in November of 2024 when I actually finally received a diagnosis of severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, known also with a combined presentation. So this neurodevelopmental framework helps explain lifelong challenges with attention, organization, and emotional regulation across all of my life domains, including the demise of my most recent romantic relationship. This diagnosis was actively pursued, offers a new lens for understanding past difficulties, and hopefully a path for targeted interventions in my ongoing experiences and long-term individual experiences, living my life in the city of Ottawa, where I've been for nearly 30 years now. And so throughout these challenges, the journey has been one of persistent self-determination. So despite variable engagement with therapies due to mistrust or perceived lack of fit, there was a consistent effort from me to seek help, which I think demonstrates an underlying drive for my well-being. And it certainly is proof in the pudding that I take these things seriously, and that my ultimate goal is to achieve recovery in a meaningful way that's to me. So I have a personal support dog. Bo H. Regard is my service dog. He's a vital coping mechanism, and he underscores the commitment to actively managing my well-being and creating a safe environment, not only for me, but for others. So systemic barriers as catalysts for advocacy, and my no longer silent stance. Personal struggles were often exacerbated by collisions with large impersonal systems for me. The cessation of long-term disability benefits, being placed on medical leave without pay from my employer, OC Transpo, and the subsequent financial collapse, leading to bankruptcy and loss of my home and my business, were not mere misfortunes. They really represent points of impact with systemic walls, revealing the profound barriers faced by individuals with chronic health conditions and disabilities, just like me. So this crucible of experience forged in my activist or actionist identity, the conscious choice to be no longer silent about these experiences, articulated in a number of social media campaigns, and also including a GoFundMe campaign that was run on my behalf in hopes to try to find solutions. It wasn't necessarily an appeal for sympathy, but it was actually a deliberate activist stance to foster connection and reduce stigma. This transformation of personal grievance into public testimony for me provided the lived experience necessary, I think, to challenge and to change the way that the very systemic failures that I encountered operate. So this experience of not having my future horizon removed, the experience of having my future horizon removed by an external system or diagnosis is a profound and shared challenge, of course, similar to the prognosis of doom described by Pat Deegan. This shared experience highlights a fundamental challenge within traditional systems, their tendency to define individuals like me by our limitations rather than by our potential. So Angus by design, in terms of my own philosophy, much like Deegan's work, is a direct counter narrative to this limiting belief, emphasizing agency and the active creation of my meaningful future. And so here are some key milestones in my journey of self-determination. So in 2008, having bariatric surgery to reduce my weight from over 500 pounds. And the response or the act of self-determination was my physical transformation. And then basically it was a reclamation, reclaiming my body, its narrative as a foundation for a future me. In 2010, I underwent a panelectomy for some of the excess skin, and OHIP, the Ontario Health Insurance, that would cover those surgeries, they deemed further surgeries not medically necessary. And so, essentially, I need to remain persistent in seeking relief from the physical discomfort as a result of the resulting excess skin from my previous efforts. So I'm always advocating for personal well-being despite these systemic limitations. And so in 2012, the catalyst I had of just trying whatever any doctor or prescriber or specialist deemed as being a good idea for me or the best idea for me, I really had to put a kibosh on that, because in 2012 I underwent an effective treatment in trying to try a medication called Lyrica, and it was excruciating, and it sent me down a path of just intense increased physical pain, and it really created a huge barrier for me in seeing medication as any form of solution. So I continued my search for effective pain management and resilience in the face of ongoing physical challenges. So I had to really focus. In 2017 to 2019, I saw a peak, but then also a deterioration in my mental health, including my major depressive disorder, my post-traumatic stress disorder, and my body dysmorphic disorder as a result of a number of workplace violences and assaults, as well as a sexual assault from a prominent member of my local community, and somebody who had really groomed me for some time and then saw their window of opportunity. And so that, included things like a cessation of my LTD benefits again, medical leave. It brought all of that back up regarding the OC Transpo, financial ruin and further financial hardships, especially in 2018 when I was deemed permanently disabled and had to really go through a set of extraordinary circumstances in the workplace and in my union. And it's really where I fortified the no longer silent stance. And it's really about transforming my personal grievance into public testimony and advocacy against these systemic barriers. So again, 2019, when I did the project with artist Ruth Steinberg, not only was it about, overcoming societal beauty standards and personal body dysmorphia, but it really was artistic activism, reclaiming my body, the narrative, and finding a compassionate voice, and then using it as a form of peer support and self-acceptance. So I got involved with an organization called Masculinity Under Construction that was part of an organization called Octiva, or the Ottawa Carleton I forget what it stands for, but it's basically to end violence against women. And so, together we were working on dismantling these things that men face, and the barriers that men face in facing and overcoming these challenges. And unfortunately, that led to further abuse at the hands of my bullies and the people that were ongoing and over many years, having a negative impact on my life simply because of my involvement. And so that art project, while it was very empowering, it also drew a bit of attention, and so it was later that year in which I seemed to be the target number one on a number of people's list, but one particular local performer, drag queen, and politician in another major local union did take advantage of the moment and did assault me, and in a way that really undermined not only my mental, my physical, but my soul health, and so that can have a profound ongoing effect, especially after a life of self-advocacy and having success reclaiming my body. So in 2019 as well, I also was active and probably one of the most vocal in transit activism, so criticizing OC Transpo and the ATU Local 279, as well as local politicians at City Hall and OC Transpo in terms of the opening of the LRT Phase 1 and looking at the perceived errors that I had in public service and the neglect of our urban core. And public advocacy, speaking out against my employer and my union, and demonstrating courage and commitment to community well-being, challenging established power. From 2020 till about now, I pursue a number of certifications, and I've achieved things like becoming an advanced level facilitator for the Wellness Recovery Action Plan as developed by Dr. Mary Ellen Copeland, the emotional CPR qualified practitioner certification that I obtained as developed by Dr. Daniel Fisher, and the National Empowerment Center in a program called ECPR, or emotional CPR. And then also achieving as a member of the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery since 2020, the designation of Certified Wellbeing Mentor as an advanced level facilitator of their business standards and practices. And so really just tackling the limitations of traditional mental health models and self-directed educating, building a philosophical toolkit for myself. And it was deliberately aligning with empowering recovery-oriented frameworks, designing almost like a professional practice rooted in my lived experience, just in case I could ever go back to work in some meaningful way. In 2023, I became a Peer Support Canada certified peer supporter. And so this is the standard in Canada for people who are potentially going down a path of looking for professional recognition of their peer roles and legitimizing and standardizing peer support practices as we see in the current times, while acknowledging our peer history. And then really it is also an act of formalizing my commitment to ethical and mutual support in spite of my challenges. In 2024 is when I received, after years of seeking support and advocacy, an ADHD diagnosis, combined presentation, and it was deemed as severe. And so this really was a chance to kind of relook at some lifelong challenges that I've had with attention, organization, and emotional regulation. And then I actively pursued that diagnosis based on recommendations and long-term recommendations. And I began to undertake some targeted treatment. And I'm still on the path of addressing it. And it's really about seeking deeper understanding of self and embracing really new avenues for well-being, designing my own path forward. And then ongoing, I have an ATU, or an amalgamated transit union peer hub. It's an evolution from my next stop, Operators Moving Forward group and blog, which was established well before even OC Transpo established their next stop. So I'm just continuing that effort and that work and those writings, and that's all part of my intellectual property. And really, it's about not only my perceived lack of union support, but also the evidence where, as time is going on, we're seeing more and more come out about how the union acted and how it supported its members during some very pivotal moments in our collective history. And so I've really been on a path of designing a peer-led support system, even within my union, and transforming personal grievance into a proposal for systemic improvement, designing solutions for our collective well-being. So I'm loving Pat Deegan's enduring legacy and how it is a blueprint for recovery. Dr. Pat Deegan's journey began in a place of profound despair, trapped in what she vividly calls the COVID smoke syndrome, following her diagnosis of schizophrenia. She recounts being told by professionals that she had a chronic disease in which no one gets well, and that her life would be defined by medication and avoiding stress. This clinical pronouncement effectively ripped away her future, leaving her in an endless void of meaning and days. A state that she powerfully termed the prognosis of doom. This narrative resonates deeply with the future circumcised diagnosis and systemic barriers. So the spark of indignation, Pat's first steps in recovery. Deegan's initial shift from despair was an internal surge of angry indignation rooted in her human dignity, silently asserting, "No, you're wrong about me." This internal roar birthed a powerful vocation to become Dr. Deegan and change the mental health system so no one ever gets hurt in it again. This internal shift, though outwardly imperceptible at first, laid the groundwork for action, demonstrating that recovery is not a magical event, but a process beginning with subtle internal shifts. This shared emotional response, rooted in a sense of violated dignity and justice, is not just a personal feeling, but a powerful catalyst towards systemic advocacy and reform. It transforms passive suffering into active, purposeful action aimed at changing oppressive structure. So the second key moment involved her grandmother's unwavering invitations to go food shopping. Day after day, despite repeated rejections, her grandmother consistently offered a connection to the outside world without pressure or insistence. This persistent, loving invitation ultimately led to a breakthrough, highlighting the profound importance of human connection and positive regard in fostering recovery, even when faced with resistance. The grandmother's actions serve as a powerful micro interaction illustrates the macro principles that underpin the entire peer movement and the peers not pros mantra that I developed last October. And so the third pivotal step was Patricia's decision to try college, driven by her newly formed goal to change the system. This goal provided the necessary motivation to confront her symptoms and actively engage with them, leading to the discovery of her personal medicine. Using using Osoni Walkman to manage distressing voices. This revelation that she could do something to help herself was earth-moving, marking a fundamental shift from passive recipient to active participant in her own well-being. So dismantling the maintenance model and a call for human-centered care. Dr. Deegan's critique of the maintenance model is central to her legacy. She exposes the extraordinary void between patient's perspective, focused on what matters to me, and the care team's focus, what was the matter with me. This model, she argued, causes severe mental illness as chronic disease with no concept of recovery, emphasizing meds, manners, and money. Her critique extends to the paternalistic nature of the model, where professionals direct lives, make choices, and expect individuals to live in segregated, supervised environments, leading to lives devoid of meaning and purpose. While acknowledging the desire to protect vulnerable individuals, she unequivocally states that the maintenance model actually backfires. And the powerful critique laid the groundwork for a paradigm shift towards recovery-oriented practice. So defining recovery an active, self-directed journey for everyone. For Dr. Deegan, recovery is not a passive cure where professionals fix someone. Instead, it is a very active journey about getting a life that is filled with the things that matter the most to other people. So a job, a paycheck, community living, contribution, love, laughter, and joy. She emphasizes that individuals live lives of meaning and purpose, even while still experiencing using personal medicine and self-care to manage stress. So crucially, she asserts that recovery is for everyone, not just a few exceptional superstars. This means that every person approached has the capacity to recover, and the role of support is to walk side by side with them, grounded in authentic, not lighting up. So she also shared about recovery core principles for human-hearted approaches. So Dr. Deegan distills the essence of recovery into 4 memes, powerful reminders of practice. The first one, I am a person, not an illness. This foundational principle demands seeing beyond diagnosis to discover the inherent strengths, resilience, and wisdom within each individual. I am not the problem, I am part of the solution. This meme recognizes that individuals are not broken and hold the key to their own recovery, with professionals nurturing their self-writing capacity. And then also, I will live my life, not my diagnosis. So this emphasizes focus on what matters to this person rather than solely what's the matter, supporting them in living full lives with their disorder. And then our challenge is to be bold and brave and caring and human-hearted while working in human services. So this calls for deep empathy, compassion, and burning desire to carry hope to others rooted in experience of overcoming challenges. So I also learned about the Maine Vermont study. So there were empirical validations. So the findings of the Maine Vermont study that she references, conducted by Harding and Sisto, provide empirical validation for Dr. Deegan's philosophy. This research demonstrated that participants actively pursuing improvement in their lives achieve better outcomes than those merely attained. So the study underscores the efficacy of active, self-directed recovery paths over passive maintenance, reinforcing the core tenets of Deegan's work and the practical application of these principles. And so Angus by Design in action, and my embodying Dr. Pat Deegan's principles. So my work, the work of Angus E. Wright, as a contributor to virtual programs in organizations in Virginia and California, is really built upon a philosophy that directly challenges traditional hierarchical models of mental health care. So I say we're peers, not pros. This isn't just a mere slogan, it's a foundational principle that dismantles power imbalances. By positioning facilitators as individuals with shared lived experience, walking alongside participants, profound psychological safety is fostered, and encouraging authentic sharing and mutual respect. This ethos is further articulated through a post-label and pro-choice perspective, empowering individuals as the ultimate experts on their own lives, aligning perfectly with Dr. Deegan's "I am a person, not an illness, and I am not the problem, I am part of the solution" memes. So the meticulous structure of a program and a plan and a practice that I put together called Practice 2025, the year of the peer, with its with the monthly themes and standardized 60-minute agenda, it really provides an essential architecture of safety. This predictability creates a reliable container within which participants feel secure enough to engage in unscripted, authentic peer-to-peer connections. This approach demonstrates how structured professionalism can coexist with grassroots activism and attention consciously navigated to ensure transformative principles thrive within a formal service organization. And so a curated toolkit of empowerment and a direct line to Pat Deegan's vision. So an extensive list of professional certifications is more than a resume for me. It is a curated intellectual and philosophical toolkit. Each certification represents a deliberate choice to align with lineages of thought within the mental health recovery movement that reinforce empowerment and self-determination. This pursuit of specific recovery-oriented frameworks which offer alternative empowering approaches is a deliberate design choice to build a practice that counters the prognosis of doom and that maintenance model. So for me, as an advanced level wellness recovery action plan or RAP facilitator, I am deeply involved in a self-directed wellness system founded in hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support These concepts directly mirror my own journey of self-advocacy and my mission to empower others, providing a structural tool for the self-directed recovery championed by peers like Mary Ellen Copeland and Dr. Pat Deegan. And then me as an emotional ECPR practitioner, this qualification connects to Dr. Daniel Fisher's work, prioritizing the heart-to-heart connection over clinical assessment. This anti-diagnostic philosophy aligns perfectly with the person-first ethos and Deegan's emphasis on human-heartedness and seeing the person, not the illness. And then my Peer Support Canada, or CPS certification. So this is a national designation signifying my alignment with the movement to professionalize peer support. So grounded in values like mutuality and the ethical use of lived experience. It legitimizes the role as a professional peer and connects to a national movement for recognition and standards. And then I'm also certified in something called mental health first aid and other trauma-informed practices. So certifications in mental health first aid and trauma treatments like EMDR, CBT, somatic-based interventions equip me with practical skills essential for community-based activism and for creating safe trauma-informed spaces. It's a direct operationalization of Dr. Deegan's call to avoid hurting those being helped. And there's a spotlight on personal medicine coaching, and which is currently my deepest connection to Pat Deegan's work. So the certification as a CPMC, or a certified personal medicine coach, was completed by me at the end of June, with a celebration in July, on July 11th, 2025. It really represents perhaps the most profound alignment with the teachings that I learned today and Dr. Pat Deegan's work. So Dr. Deegan, a seminal figure in the recovery movement, uses her own story of recovery from schizophrenia to inform this revolutionary concept. So personal medicine shifts the focus from what you take, aka pills, to what you do to be well. Active, self-initiated strategies that give life meaning. The philosophy of active, resilient self-care is a clear through line in my personal and professional narrative. And it directly embodies Deegan's core message that recovery is an active journey, not a passive cure, and that individuals are part of their own solution. So Deegan's own discovery of using a Walkman to manage voices in her initial personal medicine is a concept that's now, as a certified personal medicine coach, actively supported for others to discover for themselves. And so for me, when I'm looking at my certifications and the alignment with recovery principles, there's WRAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, developed by Mary Ellen Copeland, PhD, and peers in 1997. It covers the core philosophy and principle of self-directed wellness planning based on hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. And it empowers the self-advocacy modeled, provides a structured tool for the self-directed recovery champion by Dr. Deegan. And then same thing, just recovering emotional CPR by Dr. Daniel Fisher, MD, PhD, and his peers in 2009. It's that heart-to-heart connection over diagnosis. So CPR is connection, empowerment, and revitalize. And it embodies the peers not pros ethos that I created, providing non-clinical crisis support skills for community work, aligning with the heart-to-heart or the human-hearted approach from Deegan. And then, of course, again, Peer Support Canada, which was formerly known as PSACC. It's the national standards for the ethical use of lived experience in a mutual empathic relationship, and it legitimizes the role as a professional peer and connects to a national movement for recognition and standards. And then, of course, personal medicine. Pat Deegan, PhD, focuses on what you do to be well, active self-care, not just what we take, as in medication. And it reflects the journey of finding active wellness strategies and empowers others to discover their own resilience, a direct embodiment of Pat Deegan's active recovery vision. And then mental health first aid, providing initial support to someone in a mental health crisis until professional help is available or the crisis resolves. And it's really equipping us with practical, widely recognized crisis intervention skills essential for community-based activism, ensuring safety and support. And then my other trauma treatment certificates, including EMDR, CBT, and somatic. And so it's really addressing the healing from the impact of trauma in a physical practice. And it ensures the creation of safe trauma-informed spaces and peer support programs, directly operationalizing Pat Deegan's call to avoid causing further harm. So architecting inclusive spaces, safety and belonging by design. So this professional architecture is explicitly designed to be inclusive and trauma-informed, a commitment deeply rooted in my lived experience as a non-binary and queer individual, so to speak. This identity functions as a strategic asset for me, building trust with marginalized communities. But it's also just mindfully occupying space radically as a protected member of Canada and of North America and of this planet. And so the creation of specialized programs like the Affirming Rainbow Peer Circle that I developed for the 2S LGBTQ plus community, and another program I developed called Vetscope, for veterans and their families, demonstrates a responsive approach to unique cultural and trauma-related needs. So the evolution of my men's healing circle into a broader, all-encompassing and all-welcoming healing circle also further showcases my leadership style, attuned to community feedback and dedicated to expanding inclusivity whenever and wherever possible. And the commitment to safety is operationalized through certifications in trauma treatments and nonviolent crisis intervention, directly translated into the program design that I do. Mandates within my Practice 2025 plan to screen all the materials for a trauma-informed audience, coupled with clear crisis protocols. So, for example, advising people to contact 988 for emotional distress or 911 for physical danger, demonstrates a profound and practical sense of responsibility for holding space safely for vulnerable individuals. So, activism as a core practice and transforming grievance into systemic change. Professional practice is in itself a form of activism. So drawing on academic literature and that frames peer support as a resistance movement against the medical model, the work builds alternatives to often harmful systems by being explicitly non-clinical non-clinical, peer-led, and focused on empowerment, other programs provide a vital alternative for individuals alienated by traditional services. So these initiatives function as a form of mutual aid that interrupts institutional harm and creates community-based safety nets. So beyond this, experiences have been leveraged to advocate for broader systemic change. So for me, my transit activism. So as an OC Transpo bus operator, public criticism was directed at the city and the union, ATU Local 279, for neglecting the urban core and making critical errors in transit planning. This demonstrated courage and a commitment to public service. At the same time, I was advocating not only for myself as an employee and as an operator, but also for my colleagues. The National Disability Rights Advocacy, so a signature on an open letter from Disability Without Poverty, advocating for Canada Disability Benefit, places personal financial precarity due to my disability into a national political context, aligning with a major advocacy movement. And then my union reform, so ATU Peer Hub, which is also known as Stop Operators Moving Forward. So this work features Next Stop ATU Peer Hub, a direct constructive response to the perceived lack of support from my union. The initiative embodies the architect persona, designing a peer-led support system within the union structure itself, transforming personal grievance into a proposal for systemic improvement. This initiative demonstrates that peer support is not confined to clinical or community mental health settings, but can also be a powerful tool for organizational systemic change, fostering resilience and support in diverse professional environments. It is a living example of designing a solution to a systemic problem, mirroring Dr. Pat Deegan's call to change the system. And given that I continue to be a member of the Local 279, the Canada and the International Amalgamated Transit Union, it just goes to show that there's opportunities there. And so the collective journey, peers hope in the future. So the history of peer support is rooted in the consumer survivor and psychiatric survivor movements, emerging as a form of resistance for the medical model. So my work, being explicitly non-clinical, peer-led, and focused on empowerment rather than treatment, embodies the radical act of community care. These programs provide a vital alternative for individuals who may have been harmed or alienated by more traditional mental health services, acting as a form of mutual aid that interrupts institutional harm and creates community-based safety nets. This deliberate focus on creating safe spaces for marginalized communities, such as the QS LGBTQ+ and veteran populations, directly challenges the one-size-fits-all nature of many institutional systems. This aligns with academic findings that peer support is particularly beneficial for minoritized groups who often face additional layers of structural oppression. The process of finding one's voice, agency, and engaging in activism is a recognized and powerful component of healing for survivors of trauma. In this light, the entire career arc of silent struggle with systemic failures to becoming a local architect of the system can be seen as a macro enactment of this. So the work is not just a job, it's actually the living embodiment expanding the reach. So digital presence in the future of shared wisdom. So my Angus by Design, I guess, brand extends into the digital realm, serving as a central hub for various projects, including my Dharma Talks podcast. The brand name itself, by Design, is a philosophical statement of purpose, choice, and intentionality, a direct contrast to the chaos and powerlessness that marked personal history. And it reframes identity from someone to whom things happen to someone who designs his own path forward. And this very name and philosophy served as a direct, intentional, and powerful counter-narrative to that prognosis of doom experienced by both Pat and myself, to be honest, demonstrating how personal branding, when authentic and rooted in lived experience, can become a potent tool for advocacy and for shifting societal narratives around mental health and disability from deficit to agency. So my Dharma Talks podcast is the primary vehicle for my public-facing educational work, aiming to disseminate principles of cultivating an authentic voice, making empowered choices, and fostering shared wisdom and collective well-being. While still in its early stages, as evidenced by my low view counts and my unwelcoming videos, it really still represents a commitment to scaling the intimate relational work of peer support to a broader audience. The challenge lies in translating the art of live dialogical facilitation into a compelling broadcast medium. So the next phase of Angus by Design could involve mastering this translation, learning how to scale the magic of in-person connection into sustainable digital form. So in conclusion, it really is about a shared legacy of transformation. My journey, encapsulated by Angus by Design, is a living testament to the principles pioneered by Dr. Pat Deegan. Strengths lie in a unique synthesis of professional rigor, profound lived experience, and unwavering activism. A life of purpose has been intentionally designed from the fragments of trauma, chronic illness, and systemic injustice, mirroring Deegan's own transformation from the prognosis of doom to a global advocate for recovery. My Peers Not Pros ethos is the curated toolkit of certifications, especially my personal medicine coaching and the commitment to inclusive trauma-informed spaces, are direct embodiments of her human-centered philosophy. Both narratives underscore a foundational and fundamental truth. Recovery is not a passive state, but a deliberate act and often challenging process of self-creation. It is fueled by authentic hope, grounded in lived experience, and amplified through collective action. The Maine Vermont study's findings, validating active recovery over mere maintenance, resonate deeply with the practical application of these principles in the programs developed. Individuals and the broader movement are not defined by the diagnosis or past traumas, but by my capacity to design lives, find purpose, and extend a hand of hope to others. The combined contribution of Pat Deegan and the collective efforts of peers and allies have fundamentally reshaped the landscape of mental health. The ongoing work, from fostering peer-led initiatives to expanding the digital presence, is dedicated to carrying out this flame forward And the future of mental health lies in embracing this self-directed, human-hearted approach where every individual is seen as a person, part of the solution, capable of living a life by their own design. And it stands as an inspiring and instructive example of how the most effective architecture for healing is one designed by those who have navigated the terrain themselves. So what do you think? I just shared a lot of information, and if it resonated with you and you'd like to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. But what does recovery mean to you? What is the design of your life? What is the framework of which you operate on a day-to-day basis? Please feel free to let me know, or better yet, start to document and share your journey of wellness, recovery, and resilience. A famous quote by Pat Deegan that really resonated with me was, "I refuse to be straight," or straightened, I'm sorry. And I adopted that, and I'm embodying that. And but I also added a little bracket and the letter D, which also indicates not only do I refuse to be straightened, but I refused to be straightened. So while I can acknowledge my past and focus on staying present, it really is in the conspiracy to hope to build a brighter future that I want to focus on in my day-to-day. If you'd like to know more about personal medicine, please do reach out. And until next time, thank you for listening.